Good evening to you. Many thanks for joining us on the evening news from ABS. My name is Ifunanya Amafli, and our story is trending for this evening. Governor Obiano emerges best governor on security architecture in West and Central Africa. State Pilgrims Welfare Board tightens measures against abscondment during pilgrimage. Senate in rowdy session over social intervention funds. And on the foreign scene, 79 kidnapped Bamenda students freed in Cameroon. And we'll start with the news in details. Obiano emerges best governor on security architecture in West and Central Africa. Governor Willie Obiano has been nominated as the best governor on security architecture in West and Central Africa by Security Watch Africa. The letter of nomination and invitation was presented to the governor yesterday by the Chief Executive Officer of the group, Mr. Patrick Ambambo, during the launch of the 2018 Ember Months operation in the States. The award will be presented to the governor in June next year in Banjul by the President of the Gambian President Adama Barrow. An international panel of judges considered administration in West and Central Africa in search of a model that can be used to institutionalize issues of security before Governor Obiano was selected. The award avails countries in West and Central Africa the opportunity to understudy and learn the security model of Governor Obiano that has made Anambra safe and secure. The State Pilgrims Welfare Board has assured of its resolve to address the issues of abscondment during pilgrimage exercises by contingents from the states. The assurance was given when the board members, led by its chairman, Professor Steve Ibenta, called on the Deputy Governor, Dr. Nkem Okeke, in his office at the Government House, Oka, to brief him on the activities of the board during their first 3 years' tenure. And we'll join our Government House correspondent, Ejike Abana, who filed in the reports, and will take it from our studio.
The Deputy Governor, Dr. Okeke, who oversees the affairs of the board on behalf of the governor, while receiving the group, expressed his awareness of the board members' tenure expiration and said that he will brief the governor, who has the prerogative powers to either extend their tenure for under 3 years or appoint new members. The deputy governor, who expressed satisfaction that he worked very well with the members without issues, thanked them for their solidarity, urging them to put in their best in this last lap of their 3-year tenure.
I haven't had any problem with this particular board membership. You guys have been wonderful. I know maybe the expectations might have been different, but such is life. You did mention that you came in at a time when pilgrimage was expressing or experiencing a lot of teaching issues or problems. Of course, the bottom line is financing. But I think also the issue of abscondment became an issue during this period. Why, I don't know. I don't know if it's the economy or whatever. But these are issues that need to be addressed, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Earlier, Professor Ibenta said that the issue of abscondment is not peculiar to Anambra, but all states of the Federation, stressed that he is happy that they have done their best in spite of certain challenges, which mainly bordered on finance due to recession. Professor Ibenta, while pointing out that they will soon embark on the 2018 pilgrimage trip, having concluded the screening exercise, noted that the state government has made it that only people who are able to sponsor themselves will travel.
Very soon we will be embarking on the 2018 pilgrimage. Anambra State is well known all over Nigeria as a very dynamic state, and many people want to go on pilgrimage, but the problem is the finance. And so, those who are able to pay will go on pilgrimage, abscondment, but it is not limited to Anambra State.
Other members of the board who were part of the visit include Reverend Canon Oke Anazado, Dr. Blessing Eberechukwu, Lady Veronica Ilika, amongst others.
A group named Concerned Christians and Non-Christians of Anambra State have staged a protest against what it's called recent actions and utterances of the Diocese of the Niger Anglican Communion, which they believe was capable of causing religious and political tensions across the state. The group took their protest to Anambra State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Garba Umar, at the police headquarters in Amobia. Queen Anya Borgo has the detailed report.
The protesters were seen chanting solidarity songs, displaying placards with various inscriptions, such as "Anambra is peaceful under Governor Willie Obiano," "We don't want religious war in Anambra," "Anglicans love Governor Willie Obiano," among others. Reading out the protest letter signed by the group's coordinator, Mr. Ernest Anafonye, and secretary, Mr. Onyedika Nwosu, to CP Garuba, the coordinator of the group, Mr. Anafonye, said they came to bring to the attention of the CP the activities of Right Reverend Owen Nwokolo, which they claimed, among other things, is aimed at misleading the public, and asked the CP to intervene in order to avoid religious war as well as breach of peace in Anambra State. Describing Anambra as a very peaceful, safe and secured state, Mr. Anafonye noted that despite their diverse religious inclinations and beliefs, Anambra people are at peace with one another in the state.
The activities of Bishop Owen Nwokolo in spending time and the resources on entering the Anglican congregation and the public against Governor Willie Obiano, the governor of Anambra State, and even the Catholic Church incapable of instigating religious war in Anambra State.
Responding, the police commissioner, Mr. Umar, while acknowledging the claim of ownership of Bishop Crowther Memorial Primary School, Onitsha, by both the state government and the Anglican Church, said the police will look into the protest letter, work on it, and take necessary action. He disclosed that he has a series of meetings with the parties involved and asked the agreed parties to go to court to seek redress, adding that land issue is not under the purview of the Nigerian police.
I advised any party among them that feels aggrieved should go to court. It's only court that will determine ownership of a property. Where the government is in a possession of the land, we advise the church to go and seek redress in a court of law. The Nigerian police is neutral, and so we shall remain neutral in this.
In their reaction, the Anglican Church, in a press release by the House of Bishops, House of Clergy, and House of Laity of the province of the Niger, insisted that Anglican Church, Diocese of the Niger, is the rightful owner of Bishop Crowther Memorial Primary School, Onitsha, since 1926, with a duly registered document in 1927. The church's viewpoint was signed by the Archbishop, Province of the Niger, and Bishop of Nnewi, Most Reverend Professor Godwin Okpala. In Oka, Queen Aniborgo, ABS News.
Meanwhile, the state government says Bishop Crowther Memorial Primary School, Onitsha, remains public-owned school. A statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Mr. James Eze, in reaction to the recent protest by some priests from the Diocese of the Niger, the Anglican Communion, over the ownership of Crowther Memorial Primary School, Onitsha, disclosed what is today known as Crowther Memorial Primary School, used to be one of the 5 Onitsha Urban County Council schools before the Biafran War, and was renamed after the war to Crowther Memorial Primary School. The Upabi Asika administration stated that by changing of name, that did not affect its ownership and management, which totally is owned by the government of Anambra State. It explained that even when the previous administration handed some schools back to the missions, Crowther Memorial Primary School was not one of those schools and has remained a government-owned public school till date. The statement said the current controversy, which led to the protest, was created by a certain bishop and his wife who wanted to use the site for a foundation without obtaining approval from the government, and when their efforts were halted by the appropriate authorities, they incited some priests in the diocese to stage a protest over what rightly belongs to the government. It noted that the government of Anambra State, under Governor Willie Obiano, has enjoyed very peaceful and cordial relations with all denominations of the church in Anambra State, including the Pentecostal, the Anglicans, and the Catholics, and has supported all the synods hosted by the Anglican Church, and assisted in hosting of all its visiting dignitaries to the state since the administration came into existence. The statement noted that in substance of the Mission Schools initiative, the Obiano administration has so far donated the sum of 600 million naira to 300 schools owned by the Anglican Church in Anambra State, while in the aspects of school infrastructure, it has so far constructed 82 classrooms and 4 VIP toilets in 24 compartments in Anglican schools, and also provided 2,596 units of tables and chairs to these schools, all at the estimated cost of 168,750,000 naira. The statement noted that the administration has donated the sum of 266 million in funding to hospitals owned by the Anglican Church, in which Ienu Hospital alone gulped 100 million naira in 2014, and has helped to rebuild all the internal roads in most hospitals owned by the church in the state, as well as continue to pay the salaries of teachers and offer subventions to mission schools. It made it clear that the Obiano administration is neither against the diocese on the Niger nor the Anglican Church in Anambra State. The statement stressed that the government of Anambra State cannot fold its hands and watch its property invaded and forcibly taken away by anybody or group of people, no matter how highly placed, nor tolerate any attempts to intimidate, blackmail, or twist it into surrendering a government property to an individual or group. It warned the general public to resist any attempt to cajole anyone into taking sides with people who are bent on breaching the peace and fomenting trouble in the state, because such people will be arrested and prosecuted according to the law. It noted that the case is already in court and advised the protesting priest to give peace a chance and allow the law to take its full course, as it is the standard in every true democratic setting. The State Chief Judge, Justice Peter Umedi, has sworn in Mrs. Chinyere Osi Okoye as the new Chief Registrar for Anambra State Judiciary. Others sworn in as Deputy Chief Registrar include 3 magistrates, Mrs. Oyinye Nweke Uchebu, Mrs. Vivian Udedike, and Mrs. Ukamaka Nkechinyelu Ofodima, a former president of the customary court, Mr. C.C. Mojeku, and a private legal practitioner, Mr. E.E. Nwankwo, also made the list. Until her appointment to the new position, Mrs. Osi Okoye was the Deputy Chief Registrar in charge of the State Probate Registry. Performing the swearing-in, Justice Umedi said the appointment has become necessary considering the steady increase in the number of cases in the high courts in the state, which has led to the creation of a new judicial division, establishment of more magistrate courts, and a robust legal practice, resulting to the elevation of more lawyers from the state to the rank of senior advocates of Nigeria. The Chief Judge, who doubles as the chairman of Judicial Service Commission, maintained that the restructuring in the administrative system of the state judiciary has also become imperative in view of the closure of the State Customary Court of Appeal and the subsequent rollover of the appeal judges into the High Court bench. Speaking on behalf of others, Mrs. Osi Okoye thanked the Judicial Service Commission for finding them worthy of the new appointments and pledged to support the Chief Judge in his efforts to improve the staff welfare, reposition the state judiciary, and enhance justice delivery to the public, as well as promote due process. The appointees were later assigned portfolios and offices, while the previous occupants of those positions were redeployed to magistrate courts. For more than 15 minutes today, the Senate plenary was held amidst rowdiness over the disbursement of the Social Intervention Fund by the federal government. The Red Chamber's trouble started when the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Biodun Olujimi, who moved the motion, drew the attention of the Senate to the alleged wrongful payment of the Social Intervention Fund as introduced by the federal government. According to her, rather than pay the 10,000 naira to poor Nigerians, the money has taken a political coloration as it was being paid to supporters of President Muhammadu Buhari, adding that the present government was using the money to buy voters card ahead of the 2019 presidential election. Senator Olujimi described the action as the biggest way of corruption on the part of the government. The Senate leader, Senator Ahmad Lawal, then stood up to speak, but he was interrupted with shouts from some senators, which then prevented him from speaking. But he was still standing, trying to speak. Senator Dino Melaye then raised the point of order that the Senate leader cannot speak when the notion raised by Olujimi was yet to be seconded. Meanwhile, the Senate has begun an investigation to the diversion of $1.05 billion from the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Dividend account by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. The upper chamber is specifically probing all withdrawals from the account and how the funds were spent. The chairman, Senate Committee on Petroleum, Senator Basi Akpan, raised the point of order at the plenary to urge the lawmakers to probe the withdrawal and payments. The probe was separated from an earlier one by the Senate on illegal payments by the NNPC to augment the shortfalls between the landing cost and pump price of premium motor spirit petrol. Saraki had said the upper chamber of the National Assembly would further probe the claims by the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mekantai Barrow, on how and why the corporation was diverting the dividends from the LNG dividend. The Senate had set up an ad hoc committee chaired by the Majority Leader, Senator Ahmad Lawan, to investigate an alleged $3.5 billion account kept by the NNPC for petrol subsidy payments. Barrow had, while appearing before the committee last week, said the NNPC had only spent $1.05 billion from the NLNG dividend account to defray the cost of under-recovery in the importation of fuel. President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, ruled that the committee should conduct the probe, decrying that the diversion would have been prevented if the panel had been enforcing its power of oversight properly. Archaeologists working at a dig in Cairo have found several fragments of stone slabs with inscriptions that could be 4,000 years old, Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities said. Some of the limestones date to the 12th and 20th dynasty of the Middle and New Kingdoms, the ministry said. German Egyptologist Derek Rowe, the head of the mission, said one inscription referred to Atum, an important and frequently mentioned god, as being responsible for the flooding of the Nile River in the late period between 664 and 332 BC. Mataria, the eastern Cairo, was once part of the ancient city in Heliopolis, or the City of the Sun. A photo released by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities shows part of a stone slab that was discovered at a dig in eastern Cairo. Egypt has seen a haul of archaeological findings over the past 2 years. A sandstone sphinx dating to the Ptolemaic dynasty was found in the southern city of Aswan in September. The Ptolemaic dynasty ruled Egypt for roughly 300 years, from around 320 to around 30 BCE. In May 2017, Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities announced the discovery of what it believed to be the 3,700 years old burial chambers of a pharaoh's daughter in a suburb in Cairo. Archaeologists also found 12 cemeteries that are believed to be about 3,500 years old. Another 17, mostly intact mummies, were found that month in central Egypt. These mummies were thought to be from Egypt's 600 years Greco-Roman period, which began in 323 BCE. Egypt frequently announces archaeological discoveries, hoping that this will spur interest in its ancient treasures and revive tourism, called the lifeblood of its economy, which declined following a failed revolution in 2011, the military coup that put President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in power, and a series of extremist attacks. Students kidnapped from a boarding school in Cameroon's northwest region have been freed, officials say. The 79 students and 3 others were seized early on Sunday in the region's capital, Bamenda. The school's principal, the driver, and a teacher are still in captivity, according to the reports. The government and separatists in the English-speaking region have been accusing each other of being behind the kidnapping. A video purportedly showing some of the kidnapped students from Bamenda's Presbyterian Secondary School has been shared online, sparking outrage. An Anglophone separatist movement took up arms last year to demand independence for the Northwest and Southwest regions, the 2 English-speaking regions in a country where French is the most widely spoken official language. The circumstances of the students' release are unclear, but authorities say they are being questioned before being reunited with their parents. According to the Presbyterian Church of Cameroon, the students were abandoned in one of their buildings in the town of Bafou, about 24 kilometers from Bamenda. The church has also revealed that Sunday's kidnapping was the second such case at the same school in less than a week. And moving over to the sports scene, Nigerian's manager Gernot Rolfe has handed a late call to Eyimba's netminder Theophilus Afelokai as a replacement for Francis Uzoho for the African Cup of Nations qualifier against South Africa and international friendlies against Uganda this month. Uzoha was forced to pull out of the Super Eagles roster after suffering an injury this past weekend, which will keep him on the sidelines for at least 4 weeks. Gernot Rolfe, it is understood that Afelokai will be the number 3 goalkeeper in Raw's pecking order for the crucial match between Bafana. The 30-year-old has a chance to make his competitive debut for the Super Eagles after close to 3 years in the international wilderness. Nigeria will face South Africa in Johannesburg on November 17th before meeting Uganda 3 days later in Asaba. The 23 invited players are expected to start reporting to camp on Monday, November 12th. Now, don't forget you can follow our news and programs any part of the world simply by logging on to our website, which is www.absradiotv.com, or like us on our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/ABS Radio Television, or follow us on our Twitter and Instagram handle at ABS Radio TV. And before we end the news, we'll go through our main points this evening. Governor Obiano has emerged best governor on security architecture in West and Central Africa. State Pilgrims Welfare Board has tightened measures against abscondment during pilgrimage. Senate was in a rowdy session today over the Social Intervention Fund. And on the foreign scene, 79 kidnapped Bamenda students have been freed in Cameroon. And with that, we'll wrap the evening news up. Many thanks for being with us. My name is Ifunaya Amafili. Do have a pleasant evening.